to some kind of book or something?
Yeah, we're gonna do a couple of things. So we have a YouTube channel that we started using during pandemic when everybody was quarantined. And then we kept using it because I started a sign language class, and it just worked out better to do sign language via Zoom.
Yeah.
So those went up there. And then I told our director I wanted to do something for the 20th commemoration of September 11th, and I started thinking about it. And I also read a book of oral histories, and that was also really fascinating. And I thought, well, we should do that. It's just find out what people in our community were doing. And so we're starting with y'all, and we're gonna talk to the police department and other city administration, and then hopefully just community members will have things they want to say.
Yeah.
But it will all go on a YouTube, like a playlist for September 11th. So we're hoping to have a lot of the content up by the commemoration.
Okay.
And then hopefully that will inspire folks to come and tell their stories, and so we'd like to have a nice collection on YouTube. If we get enough of it, we'll have some volunteers do transcripts, so that we'll have all the stories in a different format. And it's possible that we might get like the film class at the high school to put something together for us. But your interview, everyone's interview goes onto the cloud, and it gets stored at like the library's secure cloud. And probably a somewhat edited version, like taking all the stuff I'm talking about now, will go on YouTube where anybody can see it. And I'll send you the links to all the info once it gets uploaded.
Yeah.
The stuff we have so far, we haven't gotten on YouTube yet, mainly because we have to teach ourselves how to edit.
Yeah, really.
Like I jumped into this, I was like, let's do this, and then I was like, I've never done an oral history interview, I've never edited film, but it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, it's not like, I don't need you to be Meryl Streep. I'm just curious to hear everybody's story, and I think other people will be as well. So.
Okay.
Okay. If you would tell us your name and your position here at the fire department.
Okay. Name is Kevin Wilson. I'm an apparatus operator on Ladder 1, which is at Station 1 here in Crestline.
And were you here on September 11th, 2001?
No, I was not. I was actually beginning my career.
Okay.
I was working for a small department on the east side of Jefferson County, and I was actually in rookie school at the time.
Okay.
Which rookie school is where you go to become a firefighter.
Okay. So tell us where you were on September 11th, and set the scene for us.
Okay, so September 11th, obviously it was a normal day. We were in rookie school up in Pell City. They had a little fire academy up there at their Station 1. And we were doing our morning PT, we were walking around the track, and one of the instructors came out and told the whole class to come inside the station, because he wanted to show us a video of a high-rise fire that was going on, what we thought was a high-rise fire. So the entire class, we all piled in there around their TV at their station, and he was just going over the magnitude of, oh my gosh, how bad this high-rise fire is. And at that time, we didn't know, obviously, it was a terrorist attack. So we were all just kind of in awe, like, holy moly, I'd be a heck of a fire to fight. And then about that time, that's when we saw the other plane hit the tower. So the entire class at the same moment saw that happen, and obviously we were all in shock and just disbelief on what it was, and just really confused. It's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And putting all of it together, and after that was all done, I mean, we were all, ticked off, really, honestly, and the instructors let us go home after that happened, because they didn't know what to do either. I mean, just like everybody else, everybody was kind of in just, oh crap, what do we do? So they sent us all home, and I didn't go home that day. I went to the station I was working at, the department I was working at, and we continued to watch it, and saw when they fell, and there were talks of other attacks possibly going on. So we were where I am, we were surrounded by other little cities, so we were going to help whichever way we needed. But when we saw the buildings fall, we all knew, like, God, that's a lot of folks in there.
Mhm.
And at that time, we didn't know how many firefighters were going in. We just knew there were firefighters and other people,
Mhm.
trying to rescue folks and all. And so when we saw it fall, it's kind of it's one of those emotions you really can't explain. It's in your gut, you're ticked, but you're also shocked and heartbroken at the same time.
Mhm.
So once we saw those fall, and then the numbers start coming in, and they let us know how many folks could be possibly trapped and all. It just was very, I don't know, just kind of blew me away.
Mhm.
So
I think everybody felt like perhaps we all had a feeling of invincibility, and then you saw the enormity of
Yeah.
what happened, and you probably knew better than other people watching, but in some of the oral histories I read, some of the firefighters talked about how they got there and realized that they didn't have enough, like there was no way they would have enough rope to get to where the fire was, and that they would just be trying to save who they could. And the people on the roof thought that thought that a plane would land or a helicopter would land, and no one knew that the jet fuel was too hot and that you just think people will get saved. And
there's just those times where, which again, I was young in my career. I mean, I was a rookie.
mhm.
I wasn't even a firefighter yet. I mean, I was in the school of training,
Mhm.
but we still knew that a fire that size,
Mhm.
when the other plane hit too,
Yeah.
it would just be catastrophic as far as fatalities go and all that. And just being able to, the resources to get up there to them to even try to save them, I don't know. And I can imagine walking all those steps up with the gear and extra tanks and all. But I know you have a drive and
Yeah.
your adrenaline running and you want to save folks. But I mean, I know those firefighters. I mean, this is something that nobody's ever seen. So they were just doing what they've been trained to do. Is you go towards where the
Well, and the other interesting thing was that probably 2/3 of the firefighters, according to one of the men who had been trapped in the stairwell but was able to get out eventually, he said people passed him, and his commanding officer, is that the right?
Yeah.
Said y'all need to leave, and they just shook him off and kept going. They weren't going to leave, and I mean, it's just that's why you do what you do. That's what they were doing. That was their neighborhood, and those were people they knew in that building, and they weren't going to leave. And
Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's what you're trained to have. You're trained to go in and risk your life to save another life. And that's what they were doing, and it's unfortunate. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody thought the buildings would collapse like they
Right.
did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were just doing what they're trained to do.
Yeah. So how did the terror attacks on 9/11 change your job or your life, or what kind of impact did it have on you?
Well, I know the next day in class, we still started, we had to be there the next day. And it was a lot different kind of, let's say, just the way everybody, the emotions and all were still high, and there was a different drive now. Now we were doing it just, that was our job, or potentially our job, and we're going through the class, but now we have more of a reason
Yeah.
to get involved and to pass the class and take the training a lot more serious, and it was just it was a driving force for our class. I mean, unfortunate that it happened, but it happened during our class, and we all witnessed it together. So that kind of brought us all closer together too,
Yeah.
as a class.
Did you have was training changed in the future based on what happened in New York or at the Pentagon? Do you know of anything, could you speak to that?
I'm sure, cities that have the skyscrapers, high
Yeah,
rise,
yeah.
they probably implemented different protocols and, the SOPs
Mhm.
and how they do kind of operations.
Mhm.
At that time, and I was so young in the department,
You wouldn't have been.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
But I'm sure around the country, there was a lot of change implemented just based on that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, thank God it hasn't happened again, but I think it would go pretty much the same. I mean, firefighters still gonna go in there and try to
Yep.
save folks,
Mhm.
even knowing fire and police, because there were a lot of police officers and other rescuers, but they're still gonna go in there and try to save folks,
Mhm.
no matter what that risk is, even if there's certain standard operating procedures or policies or whatever, you can't change that out of somebody's mind in order
Yeah.
to go in there and save folks, so.
Yeah. What would you want community members to know about September 11th, or what would you want them to remember about that day and days afterward?
The biggest thing right now, I think, is not forgetting. And I think that's happening
Mhm.
in some aspects.
Mhm.
And not, and right now, with the divide in our country, I mean, it's 50-50 almost.
Mhm.
But that day, everybody came together
Mhm.
through faith
Mhm.
and praying together and doing all that. So I don't know how in 20 years we've come so far apart
Mhm.
when something like that brought us all close together.
Mhm.
So what I would like them to know is what's caused the disconnect,
Mhm.
because we were all joined together does it take the worst tragedy in our history to bring us together? And then how quick do we separate again? So what's causing that?
Yeah.
What can be fixed? I don't think a terror attack should cause us to come together. So I would, the number one goal for me would put faith back as first priority for the country, and then let that work its way down, and join everybody together, and don't let a terrorist attack bring us together.
Right. Like, we could be better than that.
Yes, we can be better than that. Don't give them that avenue.
Mhm.
So,
I do think we divide ourselves up because nobody went in the Pentagon or the World Trade Center and started asking before they saved somebody what their political opinion was.
Okay.
Like, no, you don't do that.
No.
So yeah, why should we look for ways to tear ourselves apart,
Yeah.
make ourselves miserable, and yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, I never would have dreamed after that attack we would be in the position we are today,
Mhm.
with such separation, when we all, no matter faith or color, creed, or anything, we all came together.
Mhm.
So I don't understand that disconnect, and I don't know why we're trying to separate
Mhm.
and divide.
One of the women who had taken, I think she was on a commuter plane with the terrorists who were on the plane that hit the Pentagon, I think. So she got off the plane and didn't make the connecting flight that eventually crashed. And she said later that when we divide ourselves, we've let Al Qaeda win.
Sure.
That we're not. We're only thinking in the moment, and not. It's easy to get angry or think somebody better than somebody else. But like, if we just took a moment and thought about it, we're better than that. Like,
We are,
So.
and so that goes back to that original question. I think we've got to remember what happened that day,
Mhm.
and what brought us together,
Mhm.
and we need to focus on that, and don't forget the folks that did risk their lives to save others, and the ones that there's stories that we'll never know that happened in
Yeah.
those towers, and
Yep.
that would just shock you because of what one person will do for somebody else.
Yep.
And those are stories that we'll never know because the tragedy. So I think we need to refocus on what brought us together, and hope, pray that this never happens again.
Mhm.
But, kind of steer the country back into that mindset of togetherness versus the divide we're in.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.